Okay. So, John Hamill, do you remember what the problems were with the old website?
Yeah, well, firstly, John R is not making that up. There were issues about how it rendered on different mobile devices. I don't think that's especially unusual. I think it's still the same now. It seems like Apple comes out with a new aspect ratio of a new screen dimension all the time, and people have to rework their websites, make sure everything renders on the latest release of mobile devices and the latest release of all these desktop browsers. So I don't think it's at all unusual that a website would work on some devices and not others. And I don't think John's making it up either about the website getting hacked and redirecting people to porn sites. I never saw that myself either. It happened more than once. It was always fixed very quickly. To my memory, I never saw it. I only heard about it after it happened and was fixed. But yeah, John's right that we did receive complaints now and then that the website had been hacked and people would be redirected to porn sites.
Sorry, what are you showing us there, John?
AAI website on a mobile phone.
Okay, right. Okay,
Current.
I bet you I could find some mobiles that it doesn't work on, but that's just
Okay.
normal for
Anyway.
web development.
So there were problems back as far as 2016. Is that right, John Hamill? And I think we've got an email, haven't we, showing an example of one of those problems? I think that's picture number 1 there, Seamus. So what are we looking at here, John Hamill?
That's an email from Sam, who was on the board at the time. I think he was also on the board when John R joined. So
he was, yes, he was briefly. You're right.
Sam is a web administrator by profession in his day job, and was also the administrator of the website, the AAI website. So this was the man's job. He knew all about it. He knows a lot more about it than me. What you can see here is that we got a report in that the website had been hacked. And the hack diverted people to some adult content. And what you can see on the screen here is that it was fixed on the same day that it happened.
Okay, this was in August 2016. Okay,
Yep.
So, I mean, that may have been the one and only episode of that, or it may have continued on through 2016 and 2017. But
yeah, my recollection was it happened 2 or 3 times, but each time, as I say, Sam, who was on the board, the man's profession for a long number of years was as a website administrator, and he administered the AAI website, and every time it happened, he fixed it on the same day.
Yeah, so I've heard people like Chris, Atheist Pastor, he knows more about these things than I do. He was saying that this kind of thing where you could just put up a under construction page and then you could fix the problem, put up a new website or whatever. So the question for John R is, how did this, I mean, I know on its own, this didn't represent an existential crisis for AAI, obviously, but how did it contribute to an imminent existential crisis for AAI?
Sure. Well, I can tell you that. It's because in order to carry out the work that's necessary for the whole remit, the whole principle of an organization like AAI, you need a respectable website. So, for example, in my early days, I was appointed to be the affiliates director, and I couldn't do that job because I didn't have a website that I could be proud of showing to anybody who I might wish to persuade to become an affiliate.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
it was shameful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's one element. And sorry if I'm moving through these fairly quickly, but I know we're limited for time. So the next item was Saltzer, the membership database. So what was the problem with Saltzer when you joined?
Largely the cost and unnecessary complexity.
Okay. So how did that manifest itself? Like, were you not able to contact members, or like, I don't understand really what Saltzer does, but what problems did that actually? Harry, stop it. Every time we say Saltzer, he shakes his maracas.
Did you ever try and make an email broadcast from Salsa, John?
No, I didn't. I was told that the database was pretty much unusable.
Who told you that?
And was too costly, and that the first thing we needed to do was transfer everything to a.
Who told you the database was unusable?
Well, unusable is probably not the word that was used at the time, but unnecessarily complicated, let's say. It had too many bells and whistles for our purposes. And
so who told you it was unnecessarily complicated?
That would have been Bill Flavell, but you're trying,
okay.
You're doing what you do, John. You're trying to personalize issues so that you can spread your hatred onto people. Now, this isn't what happened. What happened was Bill, an honorable and noble man, was trying to rescue a derelict organization by the best possible means, one of which was to get rid of a crappy, for our purposes, database and get a suitable one at a quarter of the price.
Okay, so we're just trying to figure out how this made, what factors I suppose led to making AAI derelict at the time. So
just sorry, Martin, just look, I don't want to name names because I'm not vindictive.
Okay, so what you're saying here, John Ridge, is okay, the organization was leaking money and it may have actually got worse in 2018, and possibly because the membership had dropped off and so the income wasn't there is what I'm understanding. And so maybe we should move on to membership numbers. So John Richards, can you describe the problem with the membership numbers during 2017 and then into 2018?
Well, during 2017, as I don't know whether I could share an email here now, which John gave me.
Yeah, we have that. Yeah, let's put that up there, Seamus. That's number 5 there, I think.
Again, this was an email that I didn't have access to because, it's confidential and I'm no longer a member of the board, haven't been for 18 months or longer now. So this gives you some idea of the situation regarding members. This was news to me that John presented. It's an email that an exchange that I was involved in. As you can see, I don't disown that, but I'd forgotten about it since December 13th, 2017. So John refreshed my memory of the state of play at the beginning. At the end of 2017, and you can see that there were it's a bit small, 45 affiliates are the important things in this list. 45 out of the 53 affiliates were lapsed, 6 were current, and I understand that they subsequently lapsed very shortly. And the donors were I can't really see that.
Yeah. Okay. So but just focusing on the affiliates, like you say, they're the important ones because they're sort of the highest level of membership, and they're the people or the organisations who get to vote.
They're the whole purpose of the organisation.
Right. Okay. So we can see that 2 affiliates were less than 3 months overdue, and 45 affiliates were more than 3 months overdue. So those ones that were overdue, had they actually received invoices at this stage or not?
I couldn't tell you. That's not something that I was able to do. I wasn't involved in that at the time. I was in New Zealand. I'm not making out this as an excuse, but it was out of my control what was going on.
So it may have been that these overdue affiliates or lapsed hadn't even received invoices. Possibly.
I wouldn't know.
Okay. All right. And so you're saying that these current affiliates, some of them also dropped off in the coming months. And I think we actually know that for sure, because the next slide there, number 6, I think, Seamus, what Bill told me recently is that he reported to the board on March the 2nd, 2018, that AAI only had 2 paid-up affiliates, Atheist Alliance of America and Atheist Society of Nigeria. So that's pretty serious, that there's only 2 paid-up affiliates, down from 6 at the end of 2017.
There you go.
So, yeah, so that seems pretty bad.
But the thing is that we're talking about something that happened 4 and 5 years ago. Let's talk about what's happened since. And you'll find that AAI has recovered from the depths of despond that it was in. And last May, only 2 months ago, is it 2 or is it 3 now? It's 8 August tomorrow, isn't it? So that is still 2 months ago. They held an AGM, which was attended by 21 affiliate organizations. I was one of them because I am now president of AUK. So I attended as the delegate from AUK. And motions were put, votes were counted, and 21 members is a third of the then listed number of affiliates. And so what we're looking at now, we're trying to dig up historic dirt for no reason. I don't think that what John Hamill is doing is worthy. I don't think it's honorable. I don't think it's noble. I don't think it benefits atheists or humanity as a whole. What he's trying to do is ruin a recently recovered, worthy organization.
I think John would disagree with that, but I'll let him speak for himself.
Let's just keep going, Martin.
Okay, so this was the financial factor that led to the imminent existential crisis for AI. So you mentioned, John, that there was an exodus of directors, and I'm just interested to go through the evidence for that, I suppose. So can you just describe, John Richards, the what the problem was with the number of directors during 2017 and into 2018?
Well, I'll call upon John Hamill to tell us about that because he was there when it happened. He was one of the directors who quit. And when I arrived, I was only aware of Gail, who was trying to be 2 officers on the board, Bill, who was chief in the rescue committee, if you like, and a couple of others. There was what's his name? You've just mentioned him. He was the web guy.
Sam.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah, and one other who's look. Can you? I can't remember what I had for breakfast. Can you remember what happened 5 years ago, guys?
Okay.
Be honest.
Okay. But you remember there was an exodus of directors, right?
Exactly. The point is that whatever the total number should have been, whether I'm not sure whether it was 13 or 15, it was a small fraction of that.
13 was the maximum in the bylaws.
Yeah, between 4 and 13, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
So John Hamill has done up a chart. Shames, can you bring that one up? Number 8. Now, forget about the last 2 columns on this for the moment. We'll get to that in a second. But the first 3 columns show the composition of the board in Q1 2017, Q2 2017, and Q3 2017. So in Q1 2017, well, there we see John Hamill as a member of the board. And what John Hamill is telling us is that between Q1 and Q2, 4 directors were replaced over 12 weeks. So Onur Romano, John Hamill, Alida, and Christina left the board, and 4 people were appointed to the board. So they weren't elected, they were appointed to the board as they're allowed to be under the bylaws. And one of those was Bill Flavell, then there was C.W. Brown, Pearl, and Natalia. Then by Q3 2017, 2 additional directors had been appointed to the board, and one of those was John Richards. And so, by the time you joined, John, there were 11 board members. So I'm just trying to see how this represented an exodus of directors.
Well, good. The exodus was being filled up. I'm pleased to have that information. I didn't know any of that.
Okay.
I've never heard of some of those names on that list.
Who were on the board with you?
Yeah, I can't remember ever coming into contact with Jaziel Ferrer.
Jaziel went by Jazzy.
All right.
I can tell you where this information comes from. So the Q1 information, I was secretary then. So those were all the people who attended board meetings and voted in board meetings as directors. After I left the board in February, I committed to continuing the work that I had been doing at the time with the Council of Europe. So I did that as a volunteer throughout the rest of the year and reported into the board up until Q3. So I was still in touch with them. But this is also in the Secular World magazine. Anyone can go and look at the Secular World magazine on the AAI website. That magazine was published regularly and included a list of the board members in every edition. So these were the people that I personally dealt with on the board throughout the first 3 quarters of 2017. And anyone who likes can go and verify these lists from the Secular World magazine that is still on the AAI website. So I guess, John, I never told you there was an exodus from the board, and specifically when you said that, I told you it wasn't true. I told you there was some drop in numbers, but the people who left were all replaced. I think you can see here what I told you is true, and what you said was false. There was no exodus of directors.
Go ahead, John.
Yep. Well, look at your own figures here. Gail Miller, Sam Kanji, Diego Fontaneve, Jazzy Ferrer, Okan Akios. They were the only continuing members of the board in the second quarter of 2017. So that was the drop in numbers that I think I was being told about when Gail appeared in distress that her baby, her organization that she'd worked for and loved, was in difficulties.
Okay.
5 of them. I thought it was 4, but obviously I was a bit wrong. It was 5 survivors of the Exodus.
We went and looked up the problems that he reported, and we can verify from emails that they were all fixed on the same day.
John, I think we can all agree that as rationalists, I think evidence should trump narrative, and we've tried to put all the evidence up here. And I suppose you've given your narrative, John Richard's given his narrative. So based on the evidence and the 2 narratives, I guess our viewers and listeners can sort of make their own mind up about this imminent existential crisis. Yeah.
You can see that in the second quarter of 2017, the original board had depleted down to 5 continuing members.
Okay. So and so when I heard this term special measures last week, I was really interested because, like I say, I've been on the board of companies, I'd never heard this, so I just looked into it, and it sounds like these special measures, like you say, it seems like a standard UK practice, and like you've just said this very moment, that it seems to be used in the UK for public service providers like the NHS, for instance.
Can I just intersperse there, Martin, because thank you for verifying my statements, because I want to make the point that I'm not a liar. I'm not corrupt, and I'm not sloppy-shouldered.
Okay, so it looks like it's common for UK public service providers like the NHS.